God says, "My child, a proposal is near, but their hidden truth changes everything." Listen closely, for your heart is about to feel both joy and uncertainty, and the path ahead is delicate, filled with emotions you cannot yet imagine. You have walked through days of longing, nights of wondering if love will ever find you, and moments when hope felt just out of reach. Yet now, the universe is bringing someone close, someone who touches your soul, who makes your heart race, who makes every little moment shimmer with meaning. It began quietly, almost imperceptibly. At first, it was a smile across the room, a kind word when you least expected it, a presence that comforted your spirit without demanding anything in return. You didn't notice it immediately, for your heart had been cautious for so long. It had learned to protect itself, to tread lightly when love seemed possible. But slowly, day by day, this person entered your life in ways that felt natural, like sunlight breaking through clouds, warming even the coldest corners of your heart. You found yourself thinking about them at odd times, smiling at memories you hadn't even realized you were creating. There were small gestures that mattered more than words, the way they listened when you spoke, the way their eyes lit up at your laughter, the way they seemed to understand you without needing to explain yourself. Every encounter made your heart a little lighter, your world a little brighter. And somewhere deep inside, you began to sense that this connection was rare, something that fate had carefully woven just for you. The idea of a proposal, of committing to someone in a way that changes everything, had never felt real before. You had imagined love, yes, but always at a distance, always in dreams that felt fragile. Yet now, the possibility of it no longer seemed distant. It was near. You could feel it in your bones, in the quickened beat of your heart when they were near, in the way the world seemed more alive when you thought of them. Everything was aligning, every detail of your life pointing to this moment that felt both thrilling and terrifying. And yet, there was a whisper in the back of your mind, a quiet nudge you could not ignore. Something felt incomplete, something felt hidden, like a shadow lurking behind the warmth of what you were experiencing. It was not your doubt, not your fear of love itself, but a subtle, instinctive awareness that everything may not be as perfect as it seemed. You tried to push it away, to focus on the happiness, to drown the whisper in the laughter and smiles, but it lingered. Your heart is ready for joy, yet your spirit is wise enough to sense that truth has its own timing. Days turned into weeks, and the moments you shared became memories you cherished before they even fully happened. A walk in the park where your hands brushed and lingered, the quiet conversation over coffee that stretched for hours, the shared silences that felt more intimate than words, these were the building blocks of your bond. You felt seen, you felt valued, you felt loved in ways that made the world around you fade into insignificance. It was intoxicating, this sense of being understood, of being important, of being chosen. And all of this made the thought of a proposal feel inevitable, a natural continuation of the love that had blossomed so effortlessly. Yet, as the proposal drew near, the shadow you sensed grew more distinct, more impossible to ignore. There were moments when their behavior puzzled you, subtle shifts that hinted at secrets they kept close. You noticed the way they avoided certain topics, the fleeting hesitations in their voice, the guarded expressions that flickered and vanished in an instant. You wanted to trust completely, to believe that nothing could mar this connection, but your heart whispered caution. Love is beautiful, yes, but truth is sacred, and the two must coexist for a bond to endure. Your friends and family could see it too. They remarked on the glow you carried, the lightness in your steps, the quiet happiness that radiated from within. They sensed your joy and celebrated it, encouraging you to embrace this love fully. And yet, there were moments when they looked at you with concern, when their eyes seemed to question if you were overlooking something, if there were layers beneath the surface that you could not yet perceive. Their words were gentle, careful, but they echoed the quiet warnings your own intuition had been sending. You remember the first time you felt truly vulnerable with them, the first time you shared your fears, your past, your dreams, and they held it all without judgment. That moment solidified your belief that this was different, that this was rare, that this was a love that could transform you. And yet, even in that openness, there was a part of them that remained hidden, a corner of their heart and past that they guarded carefully. You didn't push, because love teaches patience, but you could feel the distance, subtle as a heartbeat, between the surface and the depths they had not yet revealed. Now, as the proposal approaches, your emotions are a whirlwind. Excitement dances with anxiety. Anticipation wrestles with fear. You are ready to embrace joy, yet you are wise enough to honor the whisper of truth that cannot be silenced. The universe has brought this person to you, yes, but it also reminds you that love is not just about happiness, it is about honesty, integrity, and the courage to face what lies beneath the surface. The proposal is near, and with it, a turning point that will define not just the relationship, but your understanding of trust, commitment, and your own heart's capacity to navigate both love and revelation. You close your eyes and feel the weight of possibility pressing gently against your chest. You feel the joy of the connection, the thrill of what is to come, but also the caution that arises from knowing that life is layered, that people are complex, and that hidden truths have the power to change everything. And yet, in that very awareness, there is strength. For your heart is not naive. Your soul is not blind. You can embrace love while preparing to meet the truth, whatever it may be. Tonight, as you sleep, the stars above shine with a quiet promise. They whisper that the love you have found is real, but they also remind you that revelation often comes at the edge of joy. The proposal is near, and soon you will stand at the threshold of a new chapter. Your heart will leap, your spirit will soar, and your soul will face a truth that may alter the path you thought was certain. Yet, in all of this, there is hope, hope that love, when tempered with honesty, becomes unbreakable, and that the courage to face hidden truths transforms hearts, deepens connections, and prepares souls for the journeys they were always meant to take. Hold this moment close, my child. Feel the thrill, the warmth, the light, but also the whisper of caution. The proposal is near, yes, but what lies beneath the surface may change everything. And when the time comes, when the hidden truth steps forward, you will be ready, not just to react, but to understand, to feel, and to navigate the delicate balance between love, trust, and reality. Your heart is brave. Your spirit is wise. And your story is only beginning. The days that followed were filled with a sweetness that felt almost unreal, as if the world itself had conspired to make every moment with them feel like a dream. You found yourself waking up with a quiet excitement, eager to see them, to hear their voice, to feel the warmth of their presence once more. Every message, every call, every small gesture became a thread weaving your hearts closer together. The laughter you shared echoed in your mind long after the moments had passed, leaving a glow that softened the edges of even the hardest days. It was in the quiet moments that your bond felt most profound. A simple walk in the evening, the way their hand brushed against yours without speaking, spoke more than any grand words could. Their smile had the power to calm your fears, their eyes carried understanding that seemed to pierce the walls you had built around your heart. You felt seen in ways that few had ever managed, truly understood, valued not just for who you were on the surface, but for the depths of your soul. And in those moments, the thought of a proposal felt both inevitable and right, like the natural next step in a story that had been unfolding gently, tenderly, for some time. Yet, amidst the joy, there were tiny ripples that disturbed the calm waters of your trust. At first, you brushed them aside, labeling them as coincidences or misunderstandings. Perhaps it was the way they occasionally hesitated before answering a question, or the fleeting look of concern when their phone buzzed unexpectedly. Maybe it was the stories they told about their past, carefully curated, always stopping just short of revealing too much. You wanted to trust completely, and so you gave yourself permission to ignore the small, quiet signals, convincing yourself that love required patience, that understanding sometimes took time to unfold. The truth, however, has a way of revealing itself in the smallest details. A conversation that seemed ordinary at first might leave your mind spinning for hours afterward. A smile that didn't reach the eyes, a laughter that felt slightly forced, or a pause too long before a response, all of these subtle signs began to plant seeds of doubt, gentle yet persistent. You found yourself questioning, not the love you felt, but the entirety of the story you were being shown. And yet, every time you voiced a concern, the warmth and sincerity of their reassurance seemed to sweep the doubt away, leaving you to wonder if it had ever existed at all. You remember the afternoon you spent in the park, the sunlight filtering through the trees, the soft breeze carrying the scent of flowers, and the way they laughed at a small joke you hadn't even intended to be funny. It was perfect, almost painfully so. Your heart felt full, almost ready to burst with the love you carried for them. And yet, even in that moment of sheer joy, a flicker of uncertainty crossed your mind. Why had they hesitated for a moment before holding your hand? Why did they glance around as if hiding something from the world? You shook your head, trying to dismiss it, reminding yourself that perfection in a relationship is a myth, that love is often messy, yet this didn't feel messy, it felt like there was a part of the picture you weren't allowed to see. Nights became both comforting and restless. You would lie awake, replaying the day's conversations, the shared jokes, the quiet touches. You would think about the future, imagining a life together, feeling the soft pull of excitement that comes when a heart believes it has found its counterpart. But then, your mind would wander to the small inconsistencies, the fleeting moments that seemed to carry more weight than their simplicity suggested. You didn't want to see them, yet you couldn't ignore them, for intuition has a way of whispering truths before the mind is ready to acknowledge them. Your friends noticed it too, though none dared speak it aloud. They saw the glow in your eyes, the lightness in your steps, the way you carried happiness like a secret treasure. And yet, in their glances, you sometimes caught the flicker of worry, the unspoken question about whether you were seeing everything clearly. Their words were gentle, careful not to intrude, yet they mirrored the quiet unease that had begun to settle in your heart. You wanted to brush it aside, to believe fully, to immerse yourself in the joy that had been brought to you after so many lonely days. And for a while, you succeeded. Small, intimate moments became the proof that love was real. The way they remembered your favorite song and played it when you were together, the way they brought you small gifts with no reason other than thoughtfulness, the way their laughter made you feel lighter than air, all of these moments reinforced your belief that your hearts were entwined in a story written just for you. Yet, with every act of love came the subtle shadows, questions that hovered just beyond reach. You noticed the way they sometimes became distant without reason, how they guarded their phone as if it carried a secret, how a casual mention of a past event caused their eyes to cloud with something you couldn't name. You began to sense a rhythm in the inconsistencies, a pattern that your heart didn't want to acknowledge. There were moments of doubt that collided violently with moments of absolute clarity, and you found yourself walking a delicate line between trust and suspicion. You loved them deeply, truly, more than you had thought possible. And yet, love alone could not fill the gaps where truth was missing, where honesty had not fully emerged. Every touch, every word, every shared glance was imbued with love, yes, but it was layered with uncertainty, like a painting with shadows beneath the surface, hinting at what lay beyond the visible beauty. The proposal was no longer a distant dream, it was approaching, tangible and near. Your heart leaped at the thought, imagining the moment when they would kneel, the sparkle in their eyes, the words that would forever change the course of your life. And yet, the whisper of caution persisted, quiet but insistent, reminding you that what is unseen can alter everything. The truth, hidden though it may be, carries a power stronger than joy alone, and the closer you moved to the commitment, the more you felt the need to reconcile love with reality. One evening, you shared a quiet dinner together, the world outside fading into insignificance as the conversation flowed easily between you. Laughter came freely, touches lingered a little longer than usual, and your heart felt at peace. And yet, as you looked into their eyes, you noticed a hesitation, a pause that spoke louder than any words could. It was a subtle gesture, almost imperceptible, but it lodged in your mind and refused to leave. You realized that love, while intoxicating and beautiful, does not erase instinct. It does not silence the quiet nudges that remind us to pay attention, to notice what lies beneath the surface, to honor the balance between hope and awareness. And so, as the days drew closer to the proposal, your emotions became a delicate dance between joy and caution, anticipation and unease, love and the recognition that not everything is revealed at once. You held their hand, laughed with them, dreamed with them, and yet, quietly, in the depth of your heart, you began to prepare yourself for the moment when truth would step forward, for it always does, whether we are ready or not. Even in these moments of subtle tension, the love you felt was undeniable. It coursed through you like a river, steady and powerful, shaping the contours of your soul. And though the hidden truths had begun to cast shadows, your heart clung to hope, to the belief that love, when faced with honesty, could endure, could grow, could transform even the most fragile bonds into something unbreakable. You had glimpsed the beauty of a connection rare and profound, and you could not unsee it, could not unfeel it, could not deny that your life had changed in ways that would echo forever. As you walked through the quiet streets after dinner, their hand in yours, the moonlight casting silver patterns on the ground, you felt the duality of your emotions, the joy of love blooming and the unease of hidden truths waiting to be revealed. You knew, in the depth of your being, that the coming days would challenge you, that choices would need to be made, that hearts would be tested. And yet, you also knew that love, in its purest form, demands courage, demands honesty, demands the willingness to see both light and shadow, to embrace the whole truth, however difficult it may be. Your nights were no longer just peaceful, they were reflective. You lay awake thinking of the proposal, imagining the words, the promise, the beauty of a life intertwined. And yet, even in your imagination, the shadows lingered, subtle reminders that love is not only about joy, but also about courage, about the willingness to confront what lies beneath, to accept what may challenge our expectations, and to navigate the delicate balance between hope and truth. And so, my child, you moved forward with love in your heart and caution in your mind, savoring each moment while preparing for the revelation that would soon arrive. The sweetness of your connection had grown, undeniable and intoxicating, yet the hidden truths, quiet and patient, were waiting for their moment to emerge. You were stepping closer to the proposal, closer to joy, closer to a turning point that would test your heart in ways you could not yet imagine. Hold on to this love, my child, but do not ignore the whispers of your intuition. Enjoy every laugh, every touch, every shared dream, but remember that truth always finds its way to the surface. And when it does, you will be ready to face it, not with fear, but with the wisdom and courage that have always resided within your heart. As the days passed, the bond between you and them seemed to grow even stronger. Every shared smile, every touch, every quiet conversation deepened the connection in ways you had never imagined possible. You felt as though your soul had recognized theirs, as if the universe had carefully placed you together, preparing each step, each moment, for this union that now felt so natural, so destined. And yet, beneath the joy, beneath the laughter, beneath the plans and dreams, there were subtle ripples of uncertainty, small, almost imperceptible signs that something lay hidden, waiting to emerge. It began with little things, moments that at first seemed insignificant. A fleeting hesitation when you asked about their past. A sudden change in expression when a certain topic was mentioned. A glance that lingered a moment too long before they smiled and turned away. You tried to dismiss them at first, telling yourself that no one is perfect, that everyone carries pieces of their life they do not wish to share immediately. Love requires patience, you reminded yourself. You clung to the warmth of your connection, hoping that these small shadows were nothing more than ordinary human quirks. But intuition is persistent, and it does not let go easily. You began noticing patterns, subtle inconsistencies that gnawed at your sense of security. They would speak of events or people from their past, yet certain details never aligned. Stories seemed incomplete, gaps carefully placed where the truth might have lingered. It was not dishonesty in the malicious sense, but rather a careful shielding of parts of themselves, secrets kept not to harm, but to protect. Still, the heart, when it senses something hidden, cannot ignore the unease. One evening, you found yourself walking together in silence, the city lights casting gentle reflections on the pavement. Their hand brushed against yours, and yet, as your fingers intertwined, a sudden thought struck you, a question you had tried to avoid. You asked softly, almost unconsciously, about a part of their past that had always seemed vague. For a moment, there was hesitation, a pause that stretched longer than it should have. Their eyes darted briefly, searching for words, searching for a way to respond without revealing too much. You felt a pang in your chest, a mixture of love, concern, and growing doubt. Your nights became restless. You lay awake thinking about the small signs, the moments of hesitation, the details that didn't quite add up. You replayed conversations in your mind, wondering if you had missed something, if there were clues you had overlooked. Every laugh you shared, every tender word, every smile felt genuine, and yet the quiet unease persisted. You began to understand that love, no matter how deep or true, cannot fully flourish in the absence of transparency. Hidden truths, even the smallest ones, have a way of shaping reality in ways we do not anticipate. The first undeniable clue came unexpectedly. It was a message, a casual comment, something said without thought, yet it carried a weight you could not ignore. You noticed the tension in their tone, the subtle shift in expression, the way their eyes avoided yours for a brief moment. It was a fragment of truth, a glimpse into a reality that had been partially concealed. Your heart leapt, not with joy, but with recognition, the sudden clarity that something significant had been hidden from you. You felt a swirl of emotions, love, confusion, fear, and the dawning awareness that the path you thought was certain was now uncertain. You tried to confront it gently, asking questions without accusation, seeking understanding without judgment. And yet, their responses, though loving and careful, seemed to skirt the edges of full disclosure. They offered reassurances, spoke of circumstances and intentions, yet the gaps remained. You realized that they were not trying to deceive out of malice, but perhaps out of fear, fear of losing you, fear of judgment, fear of the impact that full truth might have on your heart. Love, you began to see, is often accompanied by fear, and fear sometimes demands secrecy. The realization was both painful and illuminating. You understood that the person you loved was human, flawed, and carrying parts of their life that were not yet ready to be revealed. And yet, you also recognized that your own heart deserved clarity, deserved honesty, deserved the knowledge that the foundation of your love was built on truth, not illusion. The conflict within you was profound: how to balance love with discernment, trust with the need for transparency, hope with the necessity of confronting reality. You remembered the small, intimate moments that had defined your bond, the walks, the laughter, the quiet talks, the way their hand felt in yours, the way their voice soothed your fears. You wanted to believe that these moments were enough, that love could overcome uncertainty, that devotion could fill the gaps that secrets had left behind. And yet, the clues you had discovered whispered that there was more, that what had been hidden, though not yet fully known, had the potential to change everything. It was during a quiet afternoon, as you sat together on a park bench, that another piece of the puzzle began to reveal itself. They received a phone call and stepped away, speaking in hushed tones. You noticed the tension in their shoulders, the way their voice faltered at moments, the subtle secrecy in their manner. You tried to push your curiosity aside, telling yourself that everyone has private matters, that some parts of life are not meant to be shared immediately. And yet, a sense of foreboding settled over you, a quiet understanding that the hidden truth was beginning to emerge, and that soon, you would no longer be able to ignore it. Your thoughts grew more complex, layered with emotion. You considered the possibility that love alone might not be enough, that honesty was a pillar without which the strongest bonds could falter. You questioned yourself, asking whether you were reading too much into small details, whether your instincts were overreacting. And yet, your heart, guided by intuition that had never failed you before, knew that there was more beneath the surface, that the moments of hesitation, the pauses, the incomplete stories, all of it was pointing toward a reality that would demand courage, clarity, and wisdom. You began to notice changes in their behavior that you could no longer ignore. Little evasions, fleeting glances, conversations that shifted abruptly when certain topics arose. You felt a weight in your chest, the subtle ache of knowing that the person you loved, the person you were preparing to say yes to, was carrying a hidden truth. It was not yet fully revealed, but the pieces were starting to fall into place. And in that understanding, you felt both fear and determination, the fear of what the truth might do to your heart, and the determination to face it with honesty, no matter how difficult it might be. One evening, as you walked home together under the soft glow of streetlights, you felt the tension in the air, the unspoken awareness that something significant was about to surface. You wanted to cling to the love, to hold on to the joy, to ignore the shadows. And yet, deep within, you knew that love without truth is fragile, and that the hidden elements of life, if left unexamined, have the power to change everything. Your heart beat faster, a mix of anticipation and apprehension, knowing that the coming days would test not only the bond you shared but also your courage, your wisdom, and your ability to navigate the delicate balance between love and reality. You realized that the first clues were never meant to destroy your happiness, but to prepare you. They were a call to awareness, a gentle reminder that love, while intoxicating and beautiful, must be rooted in honesty and trust. The whispers of doubt, the subtle signs, the fleeting moments of hesitation, they were all part of the journey, guiding you to recognize the full truth before committing your heart completely. And though your heart ached with the uncertainty, it also strengthened, preparing you to face the revelation with clarity, strength, and the wisdom that only comes from truly understanding both joy and caution. And so, my child, as the proposal draws nearer, you stand on the edge of discovery. You have felt the depths of love, the warmth of connection, and the sweetness of shared moments. But now, the first clues of hidden truth have emerged, quiet yet undeniable, signaling that your journey is about to enter a new chapter, one that will test your heart, challenge your perceptions, and demand a courage you have never known. Embrace the love, cherish the joy, but prepare yourself, for soon, what has been hidden will step forward, and the path ahead will be forever changed. The day the hidden truth began to reveal itself arrived quietly, almost imperceptibly, as if the universe was gently lifting a veil that had long protected your heart from knowledge you were not yet ready to bear. At first, it was subtle, a glance that lingered too long, a hesitation in their words, a momentary flicker of fear in their eyes. And then, piece by piece, the layers of secrecy began to unfold, each revelation carrying the weight of what you had only sensed but never fully understood. You had always trusted your instincts, and now they were speaking louder than ever. There was no mistaking the signs, no longer any way to ignore the pieces of the puzzle that were finally falling into place. Something vital had been hidden from you, not out of malice but out of fear, and the revelation struck your heart with both sorrow and disbelief. You felt a trembling within, a shiver that ran through every fiber of your being, and for the first time, the perfect world you had imagined with them began to fracture. It began with a conversation, one that seemed ordinary at first, but whose words carried meanings you could not overlook. You asked gently about something you had long wondered, a question that had lingered in the corners of your mind. Their expression changed immediately, subtle yet undeniable. They hesitated, searching for words, and in that silence, your heart realized what your mind had feared all along. The truth, long hidden beneath layers of careful explanation and avoidance, was now emerging, unmistakable and powerful. Shock washed over you, cold and sudden. Your heart pounded as your mind struggled to reconcile the image of the person you loved with the reality now laid before you. You wanted to reject it, to deny it, to cling to the version of them you had known. And yet, the clarity was undeniable, the evidence of hidden truth undeniable. You felt a mixture of heartbreak and understanding, of love and confusion, of the deep ache that comes when reality collides with expectation. They tried to explain, their voice trembling with sincerity, their eyes searching yours for forgiveness, for understanding, for a chance to bridge the gap between the truth and the love you still felt. They spoke of circumstances, of past decisions, of fears that had driven them to conceal certain realities from you. You listened, torn between compassion and disbelief, between the desire to hold on to love and the need to honor your own heart's demand for honesty. Every word they spoke, though filled with love, could not erase the weight of what had been hidden. Tears came unbidden, a release of the tension and anticipation that had built over days, weeks, months. The proposal, once so near and shining in your imagination, now felt suspended in uncertainty. The joy you had felt in imagining a shared future was mingled with grief, the grief of knowing that love, no matter how genuine, can be complicated by the truths we keep from one another. You wanted to scream, to cry, to question, yet the quiet dignity of the moment held you in its grasp, demanding reflection rather than reaction, wisdom rather than impulse. You realized that this hidden truth was not a judgment on your love, nor a condemnation of the person you cared for. It was simply a reality, a part of life that had not yet been revealed, a piece of their story that they had guarded, perhaps to protect both themselves and you. And yet, knowing it now changed everything. The foundation of trust, once assumed, now required rebuilding, re-examining, and reconciling with the love you still carried in your heart. The proposal, so close to fruition, now hung in the balance, uncertain and fragile. In the days that followed, your emotions became a whirlwind. You loved them still, deeply and truly, yet the awareness of what had been hidden created a tension that could not be ignored. You questioned yourself, your judgment, your ability to navigate the delicate path between forgiveness and self-respect. You pondered whether the love you felt was enough to withstand the shock of revelation, whether trust could be rebuilt, whether the vision of a shared future could survive the fracture that had now entered your world. They reached out to you often, their words filled with remorse and longing, their gestures seeking reconciliation, their eyes searching for signs that you could forgive, that you could understand, that you could continue to walk together despite the hidden truth. You wanted to meet their eyes, to embrace them, to believe in the love that had brought you together. And yet, you knew that the heart cannot simply erase knowledge, that truth has a gravity that changes the shape of everything it touches. Friends and family noticed the shift in your demeanor, the quiet moments of contemplation, the occasional retreats into silence. They saw the joy that remained, the love that still radiated, but they also sensed the fracture, the space that had opened between perception and reality. Their support was gentle, compassionate, yet it reminded you that you were not alone in this, that guidance and understanding were available if you chose to seek them, if you allowed yourself the clarity that comes from reflection. You spent hours in contemplation, walking through quiet streets, sitting by open windows, staring at the stars. Each revelation returned to your mind, each word replayed, each hesitation examined. You felt the weight of the hidden truth, but you also began to see its purpose, not to destroy, but to prepare, to teach, to awaken the awareness that love requires courage, honesty, and a willingness to face reality, no matter how painful. The proposal, once so near and certain, now became a test, a threshold, a moment of reckoning between love and truth. You thought about the moments that had brought you joy, the small gestures that had cemented your connection. You remembered their smile, the way their hand felt in yours, the way laughter had flowed freely between you. And you realized that these moments were still real, still precious, still part of your story. Love had not vanished, it had been challenged, yes, but challenge does not erase love, it reveals its depth, its resilience, its ability to endure when faced with honesty and revelation. Conversations became more intentional, more deliberate. You asked questions, seeking clarity, seeking understanding, seeking a path forward that honored both your love and the truth you now carried. They answered with vulnerability, with honesty, with a willingness to show their heart in ways they had not before. And though the hidden truth remained a weight, its emergence allowed space for genuine connection, for a love that could exist not only in joy but also in the courage to confront reality. Your nights, once filled with the sweet anticipation of a proposal, now carried the duality of hope and apprehension. You dreamed of a future together, but those dreams were tempered with reflection, with the understanding that love, to be enduring, must be built on transparency and trust. You felt grief for what had been hidden, yet you also felt gratitude for what had been revealed, for the chance to face reality before committing fully, for the opportunity to choose a path not out of ignorance, but with clarity of heart. And so, my child, the hidden truth has stepped forward. It has shaken your world, challenged your perceptions, and stirred emotions you had only begun to understand. The proposal, once a shining certainty, now awaits a decision that will honor both love and truth. Your heart is tested, your spirit awakened, and your understanding of connection deepened. Embrace the love that remains, honor the revelations that have come to light, and know that courage and honesty will guide you through this turning point, leading you toward the path your soul was always meant to follow. Hold your heart steady, my child. Feel the shock, feel the sorrow, feel the love that still lingers. Let each emotion teach you, let each tear cleanse you, and let the awareness of truth prepare you for the choices that lie ahead. The proposal is still near, but now it carries a weight and significance far greater than you ever imagined, a test not only of love, but of integrity, courage, and the wisdom to face reality while holding on to the beauty of what is real. The days following the revelation were heavy, saturated with emotions you had never anticipated. Your heart, once brimming with joy at the thought of a proposal, now carried the weight of doubt, confusion, and sorrow. Every memory, Every shared moment, every laugh and whispered secret now seemed layered with complexity, each tinged with the shadow of what had been hidden. You loved them, still, you loved them deeply, but love alone could not erase the ache of discovering truths that had been kept from you. You found yourself walking in circles of thought, unable to quiet the constant questioning in your mind. Was the love you felt enough to withstand this fracture? Could trust be rebuilt when the foundation had shifted beneath your feet? Could the dreams you had nurtured together survive the shock of reality? Each question felt like a weight pressing down on your chest, making each breath more conscious, each step more deliberate. And yet, within that pressure, there was a quiet clarity emerging, a recognition that decisions born from awareness and honesty, though painful, carry the potential for strength and growth. They reached out to you constantly, their words brimming with remorse, their eyes searching for understanding, their voice trembling with the hope that love could overcome the hidden truth. They spoke of intentions, of fears that had driven their secrecy, of circumstances they had believed you would never accept or understand. You wanted to hold on to them, to believe in the love that had once felt seamless and certain. And yet, you could not ignore the truth, could not simply erase the sense of betrayal that lingered beneath the warmth. Every gesture of love was now filtered through the lens of awareness, every touch carrying both comfort and unease. You remembered the countless small moments that had defined your bond, the quiet dinners, the spontaneous laughter, the walks where your hands had fit perfectly together. Those memories were real, and the love you had felt was real, but reality had shifted. The hidden truth had entered your world and would not leave quietly. It demanded acknowledgement, reflection, and ultimately, a decision that could not be postponed. Love, you realized, is not only about joy and intimacy, it is also about integrity, about confronting what is hidden, and about making choices that honor both heart and soul. For nights, you lay awake, staring at the ceiling or out at the stars, trying to make sense of your emotions. The contrast between what you had imagined, the proposal, the shared future, the promise of a life together, and what had emerged, the secrets, the omissions, the fractured trust, was almost unbearable. You wanted to scream, to cry, to retreat, but deep inside, a quiet voice reminded you that true courage lies not in avoidance but in facing the truth, no matter how painful. Love is tested not in perfection, but in adversity, and your heart had been summoned to this test. Every day, you wrestled with conflicting emotions. Love pulled you in one direction, tender and insistent. Pride and self-respect pulled you in another, demanding clarity, honesty, and boundaries. The person you loved was before you, their eyes brimming with regret, their hands extended in the hope of reconciliation. You wanted to reach for them, to embrace them, to forgive, to trust, to move forward. And yet, every fiber of your being reminded you that some truths cannot be ignored, that some breaches of trust require time, reflection, and the courage to act in alignment with your own values. You reflected on the idea of a proposal, once a shining beacon of joy, now transformed into a crucible of decision. Could you say yes with a full heart, knowing the hidden truths that had been concealed? Could you commit to a future with someone whose past had not been fully shared, whose motives and experiences you had only begun to understand? Your love was undeniable, your connection profound, yet the weight of truth demanded careful consideration. The proposal, near as it was, could no longer simply be a celebration of love, it had to be a moment of choice, a reflection of both heart and awareness. Conversations became more deliberate, more focused, more essential. You asked questions, seeking understanding, clarity, and honesty. They responded with vulnerability, sometimes with tears, sometimes with long pauses as they gathered the courage to reveal what had been hidden. Each word, each explanation, each confession chipped away at the uncertainty, yet it also illuminated the depth of the challenges that lay ahead. You realized that love, even at its most genuine, must coexist with truth, and that ignoring what has been concealed is never truly possible. There were moments of tenderness that reminded you of why you had loved them in the first place, the way their hand fit in yours, the laughter that rose spontaneously from your shared moments, the comfort of their presence in quiet times. And yet, these moments were interlaced with caution, with reflection, with the persistent awareness that the foundation of your connection had been shaken. The contrast was sharp, almost painful, joy and sorrow intertwined, love and mistrust coexisting, hope and fear dancing side by side. Your heart felt torn. On one hand, the love you felt was profound, real, and transformative. On the other, the hidden truth demanded recognition, demanding that you honor both your feelings and your need for clarity. You realized that choosing blindly would not protect your heart, it would only delay the reckoning that truth inevitably brings. And so, you began to prepare yourself for the possibility that love, even in its beauty, sometimes requires boundaries, reflection, and difficult choices. In solitude, you explored the depths of your emotions. You thought about forgiveness, about trust, about the possibility of moving forward together. You weighed the love you felt against the reality you had discovered, trying to reconcile joy with caution, desire with discernment. Each moment of reflection was painful, yet necessary. You understood that the choice before you was not just about the proposal or the person, it was about your own heart, your integrity, and your capacity to honor both love and truth. Finally, a moment of clarity arrived, not in a grand revelation, not in a dramatic confrontation, but in quiet understanding. You realized that your heart could not simply ignore the hidden truths, could not proceed blindly into a commitment without acknowledging the reality before you. Love, you understood, is never only about desire or attachment, it is about alignment, transparency, and the courage to face what is difficult, even when every fiber of your being longs to hold on. You approached them, your voice steady though tinged with emotion, and expressed what you had realized. You spoke of love, of connection, of all the moments that had been real and beautiful. You spoke of the pain of discovering the hidden truth, of the need to honor yourself, and of the courage required to make a choice that reflected both heart and wisdom. The weight in your chest felt lighter, not because the pain was gone, but because acknowledgement, honesty, and reflection had brought clarity, allowing your heart to navigate the storm with dignity. They listened, tears glistening in their eyes, hope and regret mingling in a gaze that mirrored the complexity of your shared experience. You reached a moment of understanding, that love, no matter how deep, must coexist with truth, that some paths must be chosen not out of desire alone but out of alignment with integrity, and that the heart, when guided by wisdom, can navigate even the most difficult revelations with grace. In that moment, you made a decision, not a simple one, not a painless one, but a decision rooted in both love and awareness. Whether it led to forgiveness, reconciliation, or a step back. It was a choice that honored your heart, your values, and the lessons you had learned about love, truth, and courage. The proposal, once near and gleaming with promise, now represented not just the possibility of union but the test of your heart's wisdom and strength. You felt the heartbreak, yes, the ache of knowing that trust had been fractured, the sorrow of discovering hidden truths, the uncertainty of what the future would bring. And yet, you also felt empowerment, the quiet strength of having faced reality, of having honored your own heart, and of having chosen a path that reflected both love and integrity. Your heart had been tested, your spirit awakened, and your understanding of connection deepened. And so, my child, you moved forward with clarity, with courage, and with the awareness that love, no matter how profound, requires honesty, trust, and the willingness to confront difficult truths. The hidden truth had changed everything, yes, but it had also revealed your strength, your discernment, and your capacity to love wisely, fully, and bravely. The proposal, once a symbol of certainty, now stood as a testament to the choices that define us, the courage that shapes us, and the love that survives when it is guided by both heart and truth.